is resurrected. Gauntlet, 7 Sorrows.
Hi everybody, my name's Hugh Falk and I'm the executive producer on Gauntlet, 7 Sorrows. The Gauntlet you're about to see is definitely an evolution from the Gauntlet of the past. It's now a full-blown action RPG. And unlike other fantasy action RPGs, we're actually concentrating on the action. What I mean by this is that combat's not just drudgery you're trying to get through in order to level up your character or to get a new skill. We want the moment-to-moment fighting to actually be fun. And then on top of that, we've added RPG elements and item collection elements that are going to keep players interested for the long run. Normally, I might be taking you through the rest of this presentation myself, but considering how prestigious our design leads are on this team, I've been relegated pretty much to introductions. So without further ado, let me introduce our lead designer, J.E. Sawyer, who you know from RPGs such as Icewind Dale, and our creative director, John Romero, who you may know from some sleeper hits like Doom. Guys, it's all yours.
Thanks, Hugh. I'd like to start by saying that the 4 traditional Gauntlet characters, the warrior, the Valkyrie, the wizard, and the elf, are back in 7 Sorrows. But there's a lot more depth to the gameplay and the background behind each of these characters. In this presentation, John and I would like to show you how this next evolution in the series blends gameplay and story for a new, compelling experience. Now, cultural differences play a large role in the design of the main characters and the enemies of 7 Sorrows. We've worked hard to make sure that every creature in the game fits into the history and the cosmology of the setting that we've created. The warrior and the Valkyrie are from a Scandinavian-styled culture. The wizard is from a tribe of superstitious, cannibalistic people based on the ancient Celts. The evil empire in the game was inspired by an advanced imagination of the South American Incans. Other places and characters are inspired by Asian and even African themes. We wanted to create a fantastic place with familiar elements, but not entirely standard fantasy fare. Gauntlet lets players peek into a magical world, but a world that is not so much different from their own world. We believe that this consistent attention to detail will help draw players into the story and into the larger game itself.
All right, so in Gauntlet, we are focusing on intense action-packed combat. That means lots of melee attacks. We also have magic attacks. I can see here the wizard doing attacks. We have projectile weapons, we have cleaving weapons, we have piercing weapons. You can see the warriors throwing axes here. We have dodging and evading moves. You see the wizard here is going to teleport away to get away from enemies. The piercing attacks here, they do a lot of damage to one enemy. And the cleaving attacks, they do a lot of damage. They do a little bit of damage to a lot of enemies. One of the cool things that there's lots of weapon skills associated with these different weapons, and also when you get into a situation where you start getting surrounded by enemies, you'll see coming up here the elf is going to do a piercing attack, and then you're going to see the warrior start getting surrounded by the enemies. He's going to use his piercing weapon to clear them all out at once, and you'll see that the cleaving weapons here, the Valkyrie is going to do the same thing. The wizard, he teleports away, and then he does magic attacks on the enemies around him. And both the wizard and the elf, they both use magic through the game. And so you'll see them doing, they do. Okay, this is Ancient Wind. This is a cool attack. It's almost like a lawnmower where you're just walking around blasting enemies around. It doesn't do tons of damage, but it gets them all away from the party. And this is a skill called Oathbreaker's Might.
Now, the story of 7 Sorrows has all the immortal heroes spanning the globe to try to undo one mad emperor's lifetime of mistakes. Of course, they tried to assassinate the emperor a few hundred years earlier and were crucified to a magical tree for their crime, but when they wake up, they find that the fate of the world is literally tied to helping the man that they despise. Of course, in the process of undoing these 7 Sorrows, each of the characters has to come to terms with his or her own history of regret. For some, regret is something that they just reject. For others, it's a burden or a learning experience. But each and every one of the heroes has their own unique way of dealing with their past as their journeys inevitably take them home.
All right, so in Gauntlet, we are not using health potions. We got rid of health potions. We didn't want to have fights become a health potion race where you're just jamming on all the potions and just becoming invincible. And here, when you kill an enemy, they release energy, you press a button, and you absorb the energy that's near you. And since this game is a big multiplayer game, you co-op with your other players, and you kind of help them out when they need health. You let them absorb health. And one of the neat things is you're limited by the amount of health. The amount of health you can get is limited by the amount of enemies that you kill. There's no just abundance of health everywhere.
Now, Gauntlet is above all an action game, but it has a light RPG system to support that action. Part of this is the item and the inventory system. Every character can specialize in one style of weapon and learn 2 additional styles, which is very important because some arenas require you to switch out your weapons to deal with the current threat. Gauntlet's quick inventory system allows all 4 players to simultaneously browse through, equip, drop, and trade items at the same time with a reasonable amount of screen space left over. We want to have a nice blend of action and RPG elements that combine in a quick, fun, clean manner.
One of the innovative multiplayer features that we stuck in Gauntlet is called junction skills. And with junction skills, when you're playing with several other players, one player puts down a junction seal, which creates orbits of other seals. The other players capture the seals, and an attack happens within the area that has been surrounded by the seals. This is a class attack by the elf. He's building up a big magic charge, jamming on the button, and then it just explodes like a big bomb, doing damage to everything. This here is the Valkyrie's Flock skill. She's playing a minigame. Each of those buttons above the characters, the enemies, is calling down ravens on them. Here they're creating a 2-player fire line, which is fire between the 2 points. So anything coming into that area takes massive damage. And you can also see that the player's holding them over the fire. This is creating a big tremor effect, blowing all the enemies out of the area. This is called lightning crosses. Tons of damage. Anything that crosses that area. And then you can see 3 players creating a big hailstorm effect on the enemy. Lots of damage.
Cooperative multiplayer is what Gauntlet is traditionally known for, and Seven Sorrows definitely delivers on that front. In the story mode of our game, 1 or 2 players can cooperatively play through the story of the game with alternating pairs of heroes. This is intended to give players a rich storytelling experience and a sampling of the play mechanics behind each of the different types of characters. In our advanced mode, both online and offline, up to 4 players can cooperate without the distraction of the story mode's dialogue and cinematic moments. The focus is on quick, intense, frantic action against large waves of enemies, where every player tries to help each other reach the next stage, the next character level, the next chest full of treasure. Online, again, the limit is 4 characters with up to 2 on a single box. Now, Gauntlet has a long history in the hearts and minds of gamers. We're definitely designing this as the next evolution in that great tradition. To Gauntlet's traditional values of raw fun and cooperative gameplay, we're adding in quick combo-driven action, a light RPG system, and a story in a compelling world that ties it all together. But above all else, we're designing it to be a lot of fun, whether you're playing by yourself, with 1 friend, or a whole group of friends, because really that's what Gauntlet has always been about. That's our presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. Game is rocking.